Well, we're getting down to the closing stages. Tomorrow it is the final time trial. Now it's stage number 20. And this really shouldn't be too much of a threat for the leaders of the Tour. From Barrio Terme to Mendrisio, 137 or so kilometres. And the overall lead for Pantani, 1 minute and 28 seconds. Guerini at 5:11. Alex Zülle is now 14th, and he is 32 minutes and 24 seconds down. And there's a little bit of few extra names for you to look at. Oscar Camazin is 4th, and those 4 clear of the field, really. Piccoli has ridden a great Tour to come into the 5th place slot, and Bettini has always been an ever-present, but he's still a long way down, isn't he, at more than 19 minutes. So, Pantani today, his job simple, to keep an eye on Tonkov, and then see if 1 minute 28 seconds is enough for him to take this Tour out in the time trial tomorrow. But somebody's going to have a go after him now, and this looks to me as though it is Luc Leblanc again.
Luc Leblanc certainly looking for a stage victory in this Tour of Italy. He noticed the move there by Kepi Gonzalez, a great climber himself when he's on form, and he knows that if somebody gets away with 20 or 30 seconds over the top of this final climb, then that's it, it's all over by the shouting. But Michele Bartoli's old teammate here, Andrea Noe, the former wearer of the pink jerseys, decided, I too want to try and get another stage victory. Once you've had one, you want another.
Absolutely. I've lost track of Noah for the moment in the overall classification, but that's David Rebellin, who's also up here in this front group, and also right, he was a star of the Tour of Italy a couple of years ago when he held the lead. I think it was for 10 days, and that's when people started to recognise his name. At last he'd come good, former Olympic rider.
Mariano Piccoli looking very comfortable trying to cover the moves there, but look at this. Luc Leblanc is having a very hard time getting onto the back wheel of Kepi Gonzalez there. He's finally done it, but it just goes to show how well Kepi Gonzalez is going as he goes there past the banner, showing them just 6 kilometres or 4 miles left to go. Leblanc has switched over to the left-hand side, and once again a panic move by Kepi Gonzalez, and Leblanc realising that it's almost all over by the shouting, because these two guys certainly haven't got the impetus left to hold off this group.
Well, he's raised his game again, Luc Leblanc. When he saw Kepi sprint through, he thought about it, but he went back to his back wheel. But it's not going to worry too much about it now, because it looks like the rider just behind him there is Mariano Piccoli, who's brought the whole lot back into the action. Piccoli's the rider in that nice mauve jersey. He's used his teammate to do the damage, Sgambaluri, who was second in the under-23 championships a couple of years ago.
Also moving up there, the Seiko Cannondale rider, Paolo Salvadelli as well. And in the main field, it's the yellow squad on the front, the squad of Marco Pantani, the leader of the race. And they're obviously not too worried about the situation up the road. All they want to do is to make sure they get Marco to the finish without any problems.
So Piccolo, who's just riding in second place, he's obviously told his young teammate to just keep the pace high now. He's really fancying a stage win. He's been so close so often, and it hasn't come his way yet, and not since first stage, of course, when he nipped away and beat all the sprinters. But since then, he hasn't had the chance to win a game. And he hasn't been quite the climber he has been in the past in this race either. And, well, times change, of course, and now he's in a breakaway once more, and he should be in with a good chance here.
Salvadelli moving up into first place now, keeping the pace high. He's used to working like this because normally he would do it for Mario Cipollini. Moving up into fourth place there is David Rebellin, and Gian Matteo Fanini in the blue jersey there moving up into fifth place. And everybody now getting into the position for what is going to be a group sprint towards the finish line, and the group of Pantani is a fair way behind there. There's a little bit of leaning on the shoulders by Gian Matteo Fanini there. He realises he wants to keep the wheel of Piccoli. He reckons he's the fastest guy in the group.
So Fanini is the leader, the blue jersey is the leader of the Giro competition, and that's what it means. And he's now got the leader of the points competition right in front of him, Piccoli. And there's going to be some valuable points scored today by the consistent finishers too, because they're both in this front group.
Salvadelli now up into second position, still Piccoli in third place there, happily sitting on the wheel of Salvadelli, the big lead-out man for Mario Cipollini normally, and Fanini moving up into third spot now. A little dodgy corner there just before the finish line, and if you're not up there to the front now, then you're much too far behind.
Well, there's 18 men in the hat here now as we approach the finishing line, and again the pace still being set here by Salvadelli, kept up nice and high. And look at the face of Fanini there, who's in third wheel. He knows that if he's going to win this, he's going to take on Piccoli. Piccoli just waiting and waiting and waiting because he's got a good finish. He's not a pure sprinter. Fanini, oh, somebody's come down the outside here with a terrific rush just off our camera. And it's a Festina rider who's gone for it this time through. and it's going to be very, very tight, but that's Belli, and it's all over because Fognini got through, and he came off the wheel of Piccoli. And I'll tell you what, Fognini was the guy who was disqualified from the Tour last year. Where after he was leading out Cipollini, he sat up and he blocked the rest of the race, and he was thrown out of the Giro. Now his teammate Cipollini no longer in the race, and Fognini no longer on the team either. And he's now taking a stage win for himself.
This is just how to time a sprint to perfection. Just coming through there, Fognini gets it a full bike length ahead of Piccoli, who was certainly the man to watch, as you said, and that, I think, is how Gian Matteo Fognini based his sprint. He wanted to get onto the wheel of Piccoli, and when it came to the line, he just opened up the gas, and he certainly had the power to do it, because up through the middle, Belli tried to surprise them, but he didn't have enough power just to keep it going.
So Piccoli, second place for him. He's been so consistent, keeps his lead in that nice purple-coloured jersey, I suppose you call it, or cyclamen. And here comes the blue jersey of the Intergiro leader. And Gian Matteo Fognini gets the stage victory, free as a bird without his team captain Mario Cipollini to interrupt. Cipollini will like that finish. After over 3,600 kilometres, two men still in with a chance of winning the Giro d'Italia, and this is the penultimate rider to start, Pavel Tonkov, the winner 2 years ago, and he knows, even though he's very popular here in Italy, that all of the cheers will be reserved for the man who will start behind him. The course is over 34 kilometres between Mendrisio and Lugano.
I tell you, Phil, last night everybody was trying to work out the amount of time that Pavel Tonkov needed to take out for every kilometre, and looking back at all the previous time trials when they've come up against each other, all he really needs to do is pull back 3 seconds per kilometre on Marco Pantani, and that will give him the overall lead on the penultimate day this year of the Giro d'Italia. But he knows he has to go out and do that, and at the end of a race like the Tour of Italy, it's very difficult to come out and put in a special performance like this. But the course certainly does suit him. It's not very tough either. It's fairly flat with just a small climb towards the finish,
which I'm not so sure will favour Pantani, but remember his gap is 1 minute 20. There it is for you, 1:28 over or under Pantani's time for the course so far. Guerini, third overall, is over 5 minutes back, and really doesn't matter now. He should easily confirm his third place on the podium for the second year.
The man who really has to do something special, though, is the man here wearing the pink jersey, Marco Pantani, and he too is riding a fairly standard machine with a full disc at the rear.
Caught by Alex Zülle in the time trial almost 3 weeks ago, well, certainly 2 weeks ago now, and dropping away from the leaderboard. He bounced back in the mountains. In fact, he destroyed everybody except Pavel Tonkov in the mountains. Alex Zülle, well, he's already riding at the moment, not recording great times at the Czechs. He blew up towards the end of this race. Now, Pantani knows this is the only man that will spoil what for him will certainly be the finest day of his sporting career.
It's going to be a very nervous moment for Pantani as the seconds tick away for the very last time trial in this year's Tour of Italy, and he knows what times are going to be done out on the course by Pavel Tonkov. He will get that relayed back to him by his supporters at the side of the road, all cycling aficionados, and they will let him know exactly what's going on. Just looking at Tonkov's bike there, Phil, it looks very much to me as if he's opted for a 28-inch rear wheel there, which will give him a very large gear combination. Listen to the crowd,
yes,
Phil. It's almost fantastic, like a football match out there. They're all shouting for Pantani, the man they call Elefantino. They call him the Pirate. There are so many nicknames this man conjures up, and it's the last 4 seconds.
And he goes to an enormous cheer here now. 34 kilometres, all that separates him from that Maillot Rosa, because tomorrow on the ride into Milan, nobody will attack him. He's going to be like a man possessed. Look at the way he's looking at the road. He is going to rise to the occasion. You get that feeling.
Well, it's obviously what his plan is, to go out as quickly as possible and try and match over the first 4 or 5 kilometres the times being done out on the course by Pavel Tonkov. This man looks like a machine this afternoon. He's perfectly still on his body, and his bike is ticking over nicely. Pantani, on the other hand, does not look like a time trialist at all, but he's gone out quickly.
Well, look at this then. So Massimo Podenzana is setting the time for the rest to beat now, because he's just going to get inside Velo's time as he comes up to the line for only just 40.23. Well, this is Marco Pantani, and there are the times at the moment. Velo second, Serpellini's in third place, 31 seconds back. Alex Zülle finished, but he's already off the leaderboard and clearly no longer interested in the Giro d'Italia. But this man is, of course, head-to-head now with Pavel Tonkov, and the surprising thing is that, in fact, Tonkov is down at the moment, Paul, by a few seconds to Pantani.
Well, that's amazing. Obviously, what Pantani wanted to do was go out over the first 10 kilometres as quickly as possible and see if he can just hold the tempo that he's chosen. He's doing that very well at the moment, but there's still another 20 or so kilometres to go, and Tonkov, to me, looks perfect. He's pedalling like a metronome, 52.1 kilometres an hour. Everything seems to be perfect, but in fact, Pantani, who doesn't look so good, is up on him on time.
But only by 2 seconds at the moment, so you could put a handkerchief across them on the road. Well, now the arrival of Sergei Gonchar, winner of the time trial stage last year, and now he's looking a little bit laboured, but his time is going to give him the rewards. I think he's going to go onto the leaderboard.
The time to beat is that of Massimo Podenzana. Second is Marco Velo at the moment, and he is using a huge gear. The man who was very close to winning the time trial championships of the world last year in San Sebastian, looking for a stage victory here at the Tour of Italy.
So it's a long way up to the finishing line here. Gonchar, though, is labouring his way up, and he's hoping that he will take out another time trial stage in the Giro d'Italia. Podenzana's the man he's got to beat. He's in, and he's got the best time. And Marco Velo is in second place at the moment. And Gonchar is making a meal of this, but it's a long, hard finishing straight. It's going to be all worthwhile. He's going to get inside Massimo's time. There's the line, and there's the time, 39.54, best time so far. Pantani is on a flyer here, and 1 minute 40, 1 minute 38. He's hovering 6 to 8 seconds the advantage.
Well, there's the advantage that Marco Pantani has over Pavel Tonkov. So everybody's calculations from last night have gone right out of the window. It really has thrown a spanner in the works for the specialist, because Pantani is ahead of Pavel Tonkov on the road at the moment in the time trial, and he's going to be very happy with that performance.
Well, now let's see what Pavel Tonkov is doing here at the intermediate check. There's the best time, or second best time of Podenzana. So, Paul, he's falling behind the time of Gonchar.
Falling behind Gonchar, and it looks as if he's going to fall behind the time of Ponzana, but it's around about the same time, 13 seconds faster. In fact, he's gone through in second place. Now, the next man to come up to this point is going to be Marco Pantani, and that will give us a good estimation of how the little Italian is riding.
That same time check across that lovely little looking swimming pool down there. Sergei Gonchar still the best time. We've seen Tonkov go through with the second best time. Pantani is now, what's he going to do? Because he's still ahead of Tonkov's time as we approach that time check. This could be a turn up for the Bucks here. 20:01 Tonkov went through. Whichever way you look at it, Pantani's on a great ride. He's the second best time, and there's no one else left to pass that point.
Well, 11 seconds is advantage over Pavel Tonkov at this stage of the game, and that is a remarkable performance. We're halfway through this time trial, and I would think Marco Pantani will be getting some very good information from his team manager, who's probably watching this live on TV. Not really a pure time trialist. On the right, Pavel Tonkov looks very good indeed, still in exactly the same position he had in the early part of this time trial, looking comfortable, still keeping the big gear rolling over, while on the other side, Marco Pantani's pedaling about 105 RPM.
And almost 51 kilometres an hour, in excess of 32 miles an hour. So don't anybody ever again say that Marco Pantani can't ride a time trial. I think he's doing the performance of his life here. He is not going to relinquish the pink jersey as leader. In fact, he's going to win this race in style, or at least beat Pavel Tonkov, even if he doesn't get the better of Sergei Gonchar.
Well, the clock there showing what the current overall standings are at the moment. The difference between these two riders is still hovering at 1 minute and 28 seconds. And in fact, that's exactly the time that it was this morning. So Pantani is losing a little bit of time over the middle section of this time trial here. Tonkov is coming back, an excellent time trialist. He's judging his ride properly, but for the moment, he's not eating into the advantage of Marco Pantani. Well, once Tonkov comes across the line, these riders separated by 2 minutes on the road. The crowd won't have to wait very long till they know who is going to be the winner of the Giro d'Italia this year. But the style of Tonkov certainly hasn't changed at all, Phil, over the last few kilometres.
And he's not going to win, Paul, because he's heading for the time of Marco Velo in fourth place. Now it's Serpellini. Tonkov comes in only fourth. 40 minutes and 29 seconds. That's not a good ride for the Russian. Well, you can see in the team car behind, they're all smiles. They know that they're looking at the winner of the Giro d'Italia, barring accidents tomorrow. Marco Pantani has pulled out of the bag the ride of his life against the watch. It's the moment of truth, yes, but it's also the moment of greatness of this man as he comes up towards the finishing line now. It's a considerable scalp to beat Tonkov, if that's what he does, or even get this close to him in a time trial, because Tonkov is recognised as a great time trial rider. But Pantani now heading up towards the line. The Italian flags can wave for sure now, because they are going to see an Italian winner tomorrow in Milan of the Giro d'Italia. The flotilla of motorbikes, the grimace on Pantani. He just wants to get it over with, but that grimace will turn to a smile in a minute. We are waiting now to see the clock come on our screen and tell us just how close to reality Pantani is.
Well, he really has blown all the experts out of the water today, Phil. Everyone was saying he was going to lose at least 2 seconds a kilometre, and look at that time. He's going very close to his teammates there. In fact, third place time for Marco Pantani, 2 places ahead of Pavel Tonkov, and the time doesn't really matter.
Even the police are applauding here because he has done what nobody thought was possible. For 24 hours, the so-called experts have worked out how much he would lose to Tonkov in the time trial. I bet nobody worked out how much he would gain, and that's exactly what he's done. And so the press are going to be delighted with the next half hour or so of interviews that Pantani will give. Marco Velo, his teammate, 4th. Marvellous day out for the boys from Mercatoni Uno. They'll win the team in this race as well. And Pavel Tonkov taking 5th, with Serpellini 6th, Camazin 7th, and Zülle finishing only in 9th. Not the place for the world champion, but his incentive in this year's Giro has gone. And let's have a look at the overall. This will be pretty close to the final figures tomorrow now. Pantani has a 1 minute 33 seconds advantage. He's increased it over Pavel Tonkov. Guerini 3rd for the 2nd year in succession, but 6:51. Camazin right in the slot at 4th, but 12 minutes plus down. Clavero coming in at 5th, and the champion of Italy there in 6th. And Gonchar now in the top 10 with his time trial performance today.
Well, Rubiera's advantage there, 7 seconds over the man who was chasing, who was Marco Di Renzo from the Brescialat squad. It's a very tenuous lead that he's got here, just hovering there as we go under the 1 kilometre banner, which shows just 1 kilometre remaining on the end of this very difficult stage.
Well, the riders remaining here in the race are just over 90, 94 to be exact. They're all not very far behind Ribeiro at all. And I bet they're delighted too. The 13 scheduled laps here reduced to only 10, and the time already taken as we race into the last few hundred metres. And Paul, it looks as though Ribeiro is going to be caught almost in sight of the line. Nasty left-hander there.
It certainly is, followed by a nasty left-hander as well, and then he'll be into the finishing straight. But you can see the main field hot on his heels there, and a lot of riders trying to pull him back. There was the pink jersey of Marco Pantani, safely in the first 15 positions there. But Rubiera is still hanging on to about 10 lengths advantage over the main field, but the sprint starting in earnest behind him.
Well, they'll have to start in earnest because he's almost to the line here, but Piccoli is trying to get on terms. I saw Strazza was still there, and Fagnini is also trying to get up on terms. He's not going to have the legs, poor Ribeiro. You've got to feel sorry for him here as he goes for the line. And bursting through on the inside, and that blue jersey again is Fagnino. Is he going to get it? Win number 2 for the Seiko man. That would be the stage that Cipollini would always love to win, and it's gone to his teammate Gian Matteo Fagnini. He wins ahead of Massimo Strazza, but in the middle of the pack there, and happy to be at the finishing line, the pink jersey, and that's who the crowd have reserved their cheers for, of Marco Pantani. The big man, or the little man rather, has made a big return to the top cycle race in Italy, and he's won it so well with a brilliant time trial that left nobody in any doubt. The best man has won this year's Tour, a Tour which saw so many leaders when Zülle kept taking the lead back, and in the end blew big time in the mountains, and finally didn't get anywhere near the winner's rostrum. So Marco Pantani, 101, will be converted next year to number 1 as a winner of the Giro d'Italia. And this, don't forget, was a great race this year, Paul.
The greatest performance was by Marco Pantani, because a few years ago people thought he would never even walk again, let alone ride a bike.